Wondered whatever became of me. I'm living on the air in Cincinnati. Cincinnati, WKRP.
All right, a little radio buzz, a little bit of reminiscing taking place here.
It's a few years ago for that one, huh?
Yeah. Well, since we have radio people here in the studio, I thought, we talked about props this morning during your talk.
Absolutely.
So I thought it was I use audio props.
Yes.
So,
well, as I could certainly say and attest, I thought turkeys could fly.
Oh, the humanity.
That was one of my favorite shows. Les Nesman, and of course, being in the news business, you sort of gravitate to those type of characters. But that particular episode, every time I go into the grocery store, and especially during the holidays, and I see the turkeys there, it's like I remember that so vividly. And it's, oh, there's one, there's another, there's more. Oh, the humanity of it. They're hitting the ground with it. It's like the one thing about radio, of course, that I love so much about radio is the ability to paint the story with words.
Yes.
And I think that looking back on my career in radio, one of the great influencers was Paul Harvey.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Harvey had this truly genuine ability to use inflection in his speech patterns on the radio.
Pregnant pause.
Mm. It was like listening to an orchestra, and it was just fascinating. So it was good to reminisce a little bit this morning with the MCBE group, and truly enjoyed it. And as I was standing in the front there, remembering back over the years, many of the things that Yates and Associates had been involved in. It was truly some very, very good memories. And then afterwards, it's like, oh, doggone it, you should have mentioned this, you should have mentioned that.
So many things to talk about.
Right?
Yeah. Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is the Morton County Business Exchange radio show. And I'm Ron, here with Frank, as usual. And we have Sam Yates from Yates and Associate, as well as Laura with us today. And Sam is going to share some information about himself, as well as his public relations and marketing organization, and what they can do for you and your business, and what they've done here in town. So Sam and Laura, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. And, one of the things I always love to do is reminisce a little bit about the history. Back in my day, my many days with WSTU, I believe I was probably one of the first, if not the first, news director for the radio station when it was located on the waterfront on Alice Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was an amazing time. During that time period, radio was in its heyday, and the owner of the radio station then, Harvey Glasscock, would grill me every day. And his philosophy was, if someone spots smoke on the horizon, I want them to be able to turn to WSTU and you tell them what they're seeing. And it was, drilled into me each and every day that we were the voice of the community, just as the station is the voice of the community today. Mm-hmm. So that was very, very important. And on the drive over here from our office in downtown Stewart next to City Hall, there was a few reminders as I saw the flag on Congressman Mast's office flying with the eagle at the end of the mast, at the end of the pole where the flag was. Captain Francis Adams came to mind. Captain Adams Park, which is near the roundabout Confusion Corner. Captain Adams was a World War I, Spanish-American World War II veteran who frequently appeared before the Stewart City commissioners, and his campaign was, "We shall not have a flagpole with that globe representing the United Nations on it. It has to be the American eagle." And I think Captain Adams was also instrumental in getting the first American flag, painted on the Stewart Water Tower.
Yeah.
So that those little historical vignettes that that go back and tie you to a community is very important for me. I'm a fifth generation Floridian, born and raised in this area, product of the local schools. Spent the majority of my adult life in the Midwest, as you could relate, in the Dayton, Cincinnati, Columbus, Ohio area. And have been back in this area for quite a number of years, and have a public relations marketing business, and we love it. Laura is my managing partner, Laura Tingo, as well as our chief storyteller. And that gets a big smile from a lot of people when you say, my title is chief storyteller, and then she begins to speak, and you find out right away why she is the chief storyteller.
I think she likes the title. She has a big smile on her face.
Well, I mean, telling the stories, I mean, that's what you've continued to do and weaving it through your career since the beginning, Sam. So I know the community still looks to you as that resource.
Well, we have had and continue to have some very dedicated clients, clients in the engineering field, clients in the telecommunications field, and we're very much on the forefront of the upcoming 5G, and everyone is sort of confused over what 5G is going to be about, and we're going to be sharing that information. But before we get to 5G, we're right now in 4G LTE. And especially if you get into some of the commercial buildings, you lose your connectivity, so that even if you had a 5G telephone, as you get deeper and deeper into the bowels of the building, your 5G might be down to a 3G. So it's all about communication, and we love to tell the stories of our clients. I mentioned engineering, telecommunications. We also work with electrical companies, and one of the most fascinating companies we're working with recently actually tests for and provides solutions to protect against EMF, electromagnetic radiation, electromagnetic fields. And a lot of people are like, wow, is that real? And one of the things that we're working to do now is to reach out to the communities, especially Port St. Lucie County, to determine why young people, relatively young people, are developing glioblastoma, brain cancer. Could it be because they are being exposed to electromagnetic radiation? And we believe the answer is yes. So we're reaching out to those who have been affected or have family affected by glioblastoma, so that we can come into some of those communities and test to see if that is something that's going on. But we cover a wide variety of types of industries, not only just locally, but for example, we work with urgent care associations throughout the country, and actually have consulted on urgent care matters nationally and internationally. So we're if you were to Google Sam Yates urgent care, you'd be surprised at what comes up, and I would probably deny most of it, but it's good. We have had quite a bit of exposure in a number of industries, and that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, you mentioned to your folks that we create, we invent, we ideate. So talk about the process.
Well, it's to give you an example. One of our local businesses is Real Stone Granite. Jose Ubia, who's, by the way, connected to the Treasure Coast because his ancestor was the commander of the plate fleet that went down in the 1700s right off our coast here. The commander Ubia was unfortunate enough to sail his ships into a hurricane, and hence the Treasure Coast. But Jose's company, Realstone, also his family in Nicaragua owns banana plantations. And they came to us and said, we have a problem. You can't say Chiquita on the air, but Chiquita was not paying him what was a fair market price. And he's like, we have to do something else. We have to sell our fruit in the United States and not go through this major company. Can you help us? And that's where the ideate comes in. We sat down, put our thinking caps on, and came up with a new name for his bananas, Coquimba, which the region where the bananas are grown is the Coquilla region also associated with cocaine, but we thought coquimba would be much better than cocaine bananas. Well,
You had a different audience with
different
cocaine.
audience.
Talk about a flurry of activity.
Yes. But so we developed the logo, we built a website, and we did something else that was very unique in having that discussion with Jose. It's like, Jose, how are you going to get the bananas to the United States? Well, we're going to harvest them when they are ripe, ship them just in time to get to the market. Previously, the bananas is standard practice, are harvested green, sent to the United States and put in a ripening room. So I was like, well, Jose, we're going to have something a little different with the coquimba bananas. They're going to be gourmet bananas. And he was like, really? There is no such thing as a gourmet banana? I said, well, think about it. They're on the tree longer. They're riper, sweeter. The BRIX content is higher. So they are, and there was this pause, and you could see the smile come on his face, gourmet bananas. So we created and marketed for several years a coquimba gourmet banana. And we were the only ones in the country, the only ones in the world that had developed a gourmet banana product to the point that that giant conglomerate came back to his family and said, we would like to buy your bananas again, and we're going to give you X number of poundage increase for your bananas. One tiny little stipulation. They can still be called coquimba bananas, but the gourmet banana has to go away, because we were really hitting that company where they hurt in their pocket. During that same time period, that particular company started coming out with a little miniature bananas and a whole bunch of other things, but they could not ever become the gourmet banana that we had introduced, that started in our shop, in our brains. And we've done that with a number of other companies. A defense contractor manufacturing military equipment said, we need something to differentiate ourselves from everyone else. And we came up with the term ruggedized, because it was rugged equipment built to withstand the rigors of the military. And we used that word that had not been in use since the 50s, brought it back. So they now have ruggedized equipment capable of military hardware. Another one that was very interesting, one of our clients was in the printed, we do a lot of technology clients too, the printed wiring board, in other words, the board that is in your computer. This company was into phased gate arrays and a lot of secret stuff for the Defense Department. So they developed a process of drilling through multiple wiring boards at once. And as they drilled through them, they coated the inside of the hole. The reason for that is so that sparks don't fly between the various stacks of printed circuit boards. And they needed a description of that they could trademark. And looking at it, I picked it up and I was like, wow, that's just a little black hole going through there. So we gave them the term black hole technology. And they were like, wow. Some of it's just common sense. A lot of people don't realize that we also worked with National City Mortgage, as it was a fledgling company in Miamisburg, Ohio, acquiring businesses all over the country. And our job was to assimilate a culture so that we didn't have 30 different mortgage companies operating independently, but as one. And the whole idea for National City Mortgage, NCM was their logo, to get them to portray trust and consideration for their customers. So we came up with a term that you probably will see if you go anywhere near a National City Mortgage these days, is no one cares more. So no one, NCM, no one cares more. Again, that was a bit of our handiwork. So long story for that answer, but that's how we ideate.
Yeah, it's great. A great process. And it sounds like you get an opportunity to learn a lot about the clients, which is what you need to know. So
yes,
that's cool. Awesome. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned ruggedized, and you hear that term so much nowadays associated with everything, especially with smartphones and things like that, and cases for them. So I was surprised to hear that was something that wasn't around before. And I guess until somebody puts it out there,
yes,
it doesn't become part of our culture, I guess.
Yep. And another area that we really enjoy getting into a lot is crisis communications. I can't tell you how many times local governments have reached out to us because we can't tell you. We sign agreements that we don't talk about those governments. They get into trouble and they ask us for help. What would you do with a particular situation? We've represented a number of celebrities in that field, tennis stars that have punched their significant others out in a gym without mentioning her name. A person who was tried and not found guilty of a heinous crime against a small child. We were involved in diverting media attention away from that and several others. Many times, again, we can't talk about what the client is or what the client is doing, especially in political circles today. We're called on to consult on a local and sometimes a national basis. So it requires a lot of strategy, requires a lot of thinking of all the different chess moves that could happen in a scenario, but we love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. So this morning, on a personal note, I guess you like to hunt and fish, and you relate a story about how you protect sea turtles, and I found that fascinating how you got from there to there. So
first off, I still fish. I don't hunt anymore. And Thanksgiving Day 1976, after going deer hunting and shooting a deer, that was the last time I've ever hunted, and it was just something that broke my heart. But that was hunting. Growing up here as a youngster on the Treasure Coast, hunting and fishing was part of your everyday life. And in my teens, I applied and received a permit to hunt at night using a gun and a light, one-eyed dog, as it was commonly referred to by the locals, especially the poachers. But received a permit from the state of Florida to hunt raccoons on the barrier islands. And the whole gist of my very verbose and descriptive letter was, during turtle nesting season, raccoons feast on the eggs and the tiny little turtles when they're hatched in the middle of the night. So we need someone to go over there and shoot those raccoons to protect the turtle's nest. And I think I became the youngest permit holder and probably the only one in the history of the state that was given a permit to protect the turtles on our barrier island. So Ross Witham was very appreciative of that effort on the sea turtle front. But yeah, it's you start reminiscing and going back, and it's like, wow, you've enjoyed some really nifty things, and it's all part of the local culture, and I enjoy that.
That's excellent. Yeah, I grew up, my father was a big hunter and fisher, still is. But like you, I got to the point where I enjoyed shooting guns, and I do trap and skeet, but not much of a hunter anymore. But it's great.
Yeah, do all my hunting at Publix.
That's a good place to do.
That's a good one. Shoot one, get one. Yeah, Bogos. Yeah. I do all of my hunting now via drone. I had a drone on display there this morning,
that's pretty cool.
And we do have a fleet of drones, different type of drones for different types of things, and we enjoy working with our clients, whether it's listing real estate. We've even been called upon to search for lost animals, which is always fascinating when you can help someone find their lost dog. Lost cats, well, cats aren't too, cats are never lost.
No.
They're just cunningly deceptive.
Yeah.
But
They're exactly where they want to be.
Exactly. But dogs sometimes get lost.
I could see law enforcement agencies using you for your services.
Well, right now, I think most every law enforcement agency has their drone, as does our local media. They have drones, but as I bumped into Ed Killer recently at a pet store where we were getting food for our cats, go figure, we're cat lovers. I said, Ed, every time I hear of a bear report, I do go out the next morning and first look to see if I can spot the bear's tracks, because I still enjoy tracking, and even though I'm not hunting, and then I put the drone up. And I have no doubt that if we have a another bear sighting and I can get to that area within a good time frame, that I'll get some bear footage and bring it back for everyone. I think that would be pretty neat.
Yeah. And that's still hunting. That is pretty good.
Yep.
So one of the things you mentioned this morning as well is you have 7 tips for dealing with the media.
Yes, and several people came up to me afterwards and said, I'm going to use those tips as general communication and customer service tips. The 7 tips are number 1, be on the record. As a former member of the media, not only for WSTU, but an aviation correspondent, a nationally acclaimed journalist in the aviation technology field with a number of awards and Emmys to go along with it. Be on the record, tip number 1. Number 2, express facts, not opinion. Opinions get you into trouble. Facts will always set you free. Can the jargon. That means speak in concise terms. Speak as if you're talking to Joe and Mabel Sixpack. And that's not demeaning. That just means talk to the audience as an average audience. Always tell the truth. There's this great truth finder now called Google. So if you lie, it's going to be discovered. Learn to say, I don't know. How many times have you heard a politician respond to, what happened with the money? No comment. What happened during the fire and where did you go? No comment. Wouldn't it be a lot better just to say, I don't know, but I'll find out that information and get back to you as soon as possible? When we do media training, that's one of the things that we stress. And tip number 6, make every media encounter a marketing opportunity. And you can do that. And we teach how to do that when we do media training seminars. So those tips, and you're probably going, wait, that's only 6. What are the 7 magic tips? The first letter for each of those 6, BECALM. If you be calm, whether it's dealing with the media, your customers, or even your spouse, you'll come out a lot better than losing your patience or losing your temper.
Yes, and your image is our business, of course, right,
Yes.
Sam? So it's about coming off confident and being looked to as a resource to the community, and the media is a part of the community. So that's why I know they look to Sam so often. That phone is ringing a lot with people wanting to get that insight and your opinion about things. Sam has just a natural quest for knowledge and a genuine interest in people and their business.
We enjoy that. And again, that's what sometimes I think we're different. We're not the biggest public relations marketing shop on the Treasure Coast, but we have certainly some of the furthest reach, because we do reach out all over the country to different industries. And again, we're called upon, and many times we can't talk about it. We're called upon confidentially to help solve problems. One of the ones that I can talk about real quick, if I have about a minute to go, is we were called upon by Procter & Gamble many, many, many years ago when disposable diapers were first showing up in landfills. And of course, the lifespan of a disposable diaper is longer than fossilized dinosaurs. They just don't disappear in landfills. And Procter & Gamble was receiving a tremendous amount of pushback from the media. So we were called in to do, and this was for Procter & Gamble International, how do we avoid situations where we're facing a media crisis like this? And the response after we met for multiple sessions to learn what they had in the pipeline, if there is something in the pipeline, our advice to them was, if there's something in the pipeline that you feel is going to be an issue 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road, begin educating the public and the media now with what your response would be when that becomes a crisis. Simple as that. And the result is it doesn't become a crisis because people in advance understand why it's being done and why you're taking this particular course. Course number 1 reason is tell the truth. Let the public and regulators know what is going on. Don't try to hide anything, because then it will become a crisis. Our number 1 principle, always tell the truth.
Have your talking points ready.
Yes.
And if people want to contact you, what is the number they should call?
It's an easy number to remember because it's on my card. It is area code 772-528-5600. 5185, 772-528-5185, or we're on the web at www.yatespro.com.
Excellent. All right. Well, we got to take our regulation station break, and we'll be right back.
And now,
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
again,
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto!
wrong hat.
I take a 7.5.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
In the bell, long about a Saturday night. Yeah, rubbed up, just relaxing in the tub, thinking everything was alright. Well, I stepped out the tub, put my feet on the floor. I wrapped the towel around me and I opened the door. And then a splish splash, I jumped back in the bell. Well, I was out.
All right, little splish splash music because our guest host today is in the splish splash business, Magic Bubbles, Ron Mraz.
All right.
So our guests had to leave. They had a prior commitment.
Engagement, commitment.
So that's fine. It gives us a half hour to play.
There you go. Yeah, it was great having Sam
Yes.
and Laura
Mhm.
here and understanding a little bit more about their business. And hopefully they'll be able to come back again and spend some more time with us.
Share
So,
some more anecdotal
absolutely.
stories. We love anecdotal stories.
And we'll try to find some more music to go along with pressure cleaning while we're here.
Yes. So you had an interesting experience, and I'm going to preface that with this little sound bite from a famous movie from years gone by.
Guten Tag.
Good day.
My name is Professor Guy Gadbois, medieval castle authority from Marseille. Tell me, do you have a ring?
I do not know what a room is.
Oh, goodness. Oh,
Zimmer.
A room.
That is what I have been saying, you idiot. Ring. Zimmer.
so this bit must come at the end of this segment.
Yes, we'll have to cue it up better next time.
Yeah. I didn't have time to cue it up
That's all right.
because I was doing this on the fly.
It'll be worth it. That's right.
Yeah, the payoff will come soon.
Does your
Who
dig
doesn't love the
that?
pink
Oh,
Panther?
here we go. We talked over.
Does your dig that? No. Oh. Nice dig. I thought you said your dig did not bite.
That is not my dog.
That's-
Very, actually, very similar experience.
yes.
So I last week I was out on a job and I was at a house and doing a seal coating job. So we seal coat brick pavers and
Mhm.
travertine and things like that. So I got to the customer's home. I'm setting up everything and I use an electric drill to mix the product before I apply it.
And
So
it makes a noise.
no, it wasn't that.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
actually walking around the house trying to find an outlet. The homeowner's not home. And so I don't have any access to inside the house or to talk to the homeowner, and none of the outlets are working. So I'm assuming that one of the EFIs tripped,
Yep.
and you can't reset it unless you're inside the house. So anyway, as I'm walking back from my tour around the house looking for a working outlet and not finding one, I noticed the neighbor is driving up into her driveway. So I start walking over to her and she's getting out of her car. I said, hello. And I was like, I was hoping that you could do me a favor. And she was like, sure, what can I do for you? And I said, I need an outlet to plug my drill in so I can mix this paint. And she's like, find an outlet, go for it. And as she's saying that, one of her kids opens the door to the house and two dogs come running out. And I love animals, so don't think anything of it.
Right.
And put my hand out to pet the dog, and the dog decided to take a bite of my hand. So
Yikes.
I know. And I'm like
Wow.
freaking out. I'm like, so I get my hand away from it and thinking, okay, I'm cool, but the dog's still coming. So the only thing I can think of is that, you see those guys with those big, huge suits
Yes.
and they're wailing around to train the dog,
Yes,
And
yes.
I'm thinking the dog is going to grab my arm and rip it off or go for my face or anything. So I turn around, and as I'm turning around, it hits my side. So I have a nice bruise on the side
Oh
of my
my
leg.
goodness.
And then I get all the way turned around, and the damn dog takes a bite out of my ass.
Oh, good night.
So after all that, the lady's throwing shoes at it, yelling at the dog, and finally gets the dog out
Good
of under control. right?
God.
So I was like, what the hell? And I'm like shaking.
I guess.
But interesting experience because it was the last thing I thought of that could ever happen. Like I said, I always been good with animals. I love dogs and didn't expect it. And I think she had a invisible fence and they've never had a problem before. So she didn't think anything of it. But later she kind of alluded to the fact that dog of her two was more of a problem. The other
Right.
one
Problem child.
was
Yeah.
beautiful dog. And and it looked exactly alike, but friendly as hell. I was in her house because she's helping me out getting the cut cleaned up and everything.
God.
And it's like laying by the bathroom door while I was in there. So it was just a funky experience that I don't want to repeat anytime soon.
God.
And I'm trying to remember. Last time I was ever bitten by a dog, I was a little kid. I was going over to my uncle's house. He had a little tiny dog.
Yeah.
And it, for whatever reason, it didn't like me. And then I haven't had issues since. And
I've had puppies that will, when they're teething, they'll, but that's, not a problem because they're being playful. They're just trying to figure out what those teeth are supposed to be doing.
My wife would differ with me. When we first got our chocolate lab, and they're very playful, and he had those needle sharp teeth, and she would be the first one home every day, and the dog was in its crate, so he wanted to play, and she was like, when is this going to end?
Oh my God.
Now she likes the dog. She won't admit it, but she likes the dog.
Cats have done more damage to my hands than dogs. Cats, they just they won't let you pet them.
No, some are like that. Even if they do, if they get like in a mood,
right?
All of a sudden they're like, no,
We had this one cat that didn't mind, and except for he did mind.
Yeah.
It's like,
we had one that if you petted it too much, that's the way it stopped.
Yes.
Told you to stop.
Oh, yes,
like,
exactly.
You just walk away. You don't have to attack me.
Really, I know. So a day in the life at Magic Bubbles. So occasionally you get chased off the job by angry
the neighbor's dogs.
Yeah,
So,
wow.
So anyway, good experience. And actually, it's funny because the customer, we exchanged phone numbers, and she called me several times. So she was very nice. Are you okay? Are you doing all right? Is everything okay? Because we were actually deciding, should we go to urgent care or not? And
right.
Decided, it looked like it was cleaning up fine, so decided against it. But on one of the phone calls, she goes, "Oh, by the way, I talked to my neighbor a couple months ago and asked for your information, so I'm still interested in getting the house pressure."
Oh, very good.
So I was like, I may have a customer out of it.
Okay. All right.
So
that's a tough way to gain a client.
Well, that just goes to show how far Magic Bubbles will go to get a job. So we're there for you.
Good golly. Oh my goodness. Well, let's see, checking a little bit of this day in history stuff. That's always a lot of fun. And you wanted to talk about something new coming into town here, so we'll get to that too. Millard Fillmore was sworn in as the 13th president of the United States following the death of Zachary Taylor. And that happened on this date in the year 1950.
1950.
Yeah. And Wyoming became the 44th state on this date in the year 1890.
1890.
Yeah. And
I thought you were going to say 1950 again.
No, did I say 1850?
No.
Yeah, 1850. And in 1925, the trial of Tennessee teacher John S. Scopes opens with Clarence Darrow appearing for the defense and William Jennings Bryant for the prosecution. So it's a very famous trial. The very famous attorneys. And yes, I'm sure there are lots of books have been written about that particular trial.
Yes.
And in 1940, unfortunately, Germany began the bombing of England. It took place on this date in the year 1940. I actually met a guy in my dad's paint store of all places in this a suburb of Detroit.
Yep.
This guy was a thick German accent. Turns out he was actually Russian. He lived in a German border town and is a youngster. And so he had become an electrical engineer. You see, he had an engineering degree, but he was in his early 20s.
Right.
And the German army came by, and they, even though he was on a border town, he was really in an area that he felt he was in Russia.
Right.
The German says, "Today you're German," and he said, "You will come with us, or we will shoot you."
So they converted him to a German.
Yeah, so he became an electrical engineer in a V2 plant in Pumanda, Germany, working for Werner von Braun.
Okay.
And so his job was he was in charge of the V2 plant. He was the engineer in charge of the plant. And so I found out parenthetically, and probably very few people know how this happened, but the German High Command had requested that the V2 rockets carry TNT as a payload,
right?
Because they wanted to add this to the bombing of England. They wanted to drop these V2 rockets on England. But every time the vehicle would get into what is called max Q, the maximum dynamic pressure against the vehicle, the nose cone kept falling off. And it kind of ruined the whole ballistic nature of the rocket.
Right.
So
Did it end up where it was supposed to go?
Right. It just kind of fizzled out after a couple minutes into flight. So scratching their heads, what to do. One of the guys on the team says, if we just can strap on that nose cone tighter, they used aluminum straps, and every so many feet around the vehicle, they just attached the strap between the nose cone and the rocket body.
So from the top down?
Right. Just on the body.
Like you're taping a cap on.
Correct.
Yeah.
So to just put these vertical straps down, and they were able to get it to pass that maximum stress on the vehicle. And they were unfortunately successful in delivering the vehicles. Yeah. But they were up against it because the German High Command says, if you're not successful, you're going to have a very short career.
You're not going to be German or Russian anymore.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So did he end up coming over
he came over
von Braun when they were working on the
Operation Paperclip, I think they called it.
Yeah, interesting.
And so he came over with that team, and because he wasn't involved in the rocketry part of it, he got a free pass, but he ended up in Detroit because of his engineering background. He wanted to continue doing some work, and but he retired and ended up in the little Utica, Michigan.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's the spoils of war for those guys.
Yeah,
the U.S. got a great rocket program out of it, but those guys
and so did the Russians too, because they got a lot of those engineers too.
Right.
But that's how those space programs really developed. Started with the German V2.
Right. Well, one guy had a vision of, and it wasn't about war.
Oh, no.
It was about getting to the moon and getting into space. And,
he always was a dreamer. Von Braun was basically looking at building and designing rockets, trying to figure out the best way to do that. And they actually, because they were strapped for materials, war materials, they ended up making alcohol-fueled rocket. And they used potatoes as the...
just reminds me of the Mythbusters,
right?
All the different things they tried,
right? Oh yeah, but because we can't get conventional fuel,
right?
We're not going to use kerosene. What are we going to use? So we'll try alcohol. So that's why they were able to fuel the rockets. But so everything was trial and error and figure things out, working through it. And so then a lot of the team ended up here, but fascinating stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. And to be able to meet the guy and to have some of that firsthand knowledge
inside.
That's what everybody talks about, all these guys that fought in World War II, and we're getting to the end of those guys being around. I think they just celebrated the 75th anniversary of D-Day, and how many fewer folks are there, and those guys even talking about whether they'll be there for the next one in 5 years or but all that knowledge that is lost. It's
just tremendous. And just the dedication to just getting the job done too, and the selfless sacrifice and the willingness
to just knowing what's going to happen,
and they wouldn't talk about it for years. And it took a lot of prodding for many of these veterans, and many of them never talked about it. They just came home and said, okay, I want to go about my life.
Yes, it was a job. We had to do it. We did it, and that's it. And it wasn't pretty, so there's no reason to. I can certainly understand that.
Yeah. So I'm sure in your business too, you get to meet some fascinating clients.
It is one of the most favorite things of owning a business is getting to meet my clients and people from all over the world, which is fascinating. It's one great thing about Florida is that, they always jokingly say that nobody's from Florida, but I think I met somebody the other day too that was from Florida. I said, "Oh, you're born and raised here?" He says, "Yeah, I went away for a while, but I was back." And, it was a gentleman I quoted today. So it's and he's a real estate agent. So the great thing is just what a great variety of folks and backgrounds people have, and a joy to talk to those folks and learn from them. And
Okay, we're going to take a regulation timeout, and this will be our last timeout, so stick with us. We'll be right back. We are back. You're listening to the Martin County Business Exchange, where it's just good business. And I got Ron Mraz with me. He is our this week's special co-host.
Special co-host.
Yes, sitting in.
I thought I was just the co-host.
Oh, you're special because you're sitting in for regular co-host John Campion.
Yeah.
And who is? We give him a shout out. John's listening, and we wish him well. He's a little under the weather right now, but we know he'll be up and kicking before long.
Oh yeah, he'll be back in no time.
Oh yeah.
So
great guy.
Yeah, I wanted to. You mentioned I wanted to talk about something. So I grew up in Philadelphia, and one of the staples in Philadelphia, besides pretzels and cheesesteaks, is Wawa, and it's like a funky name. People down here is like Wawa. What are you complaining about? You know?
Right.
But Wawa is been making a huge name for themselves down here in South Florida.
Big investment.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, because they got stores in West Palm, and now they're getting ready to open their second store here in Stewart, and I think there's a third one on the way. But I remember growing up with them. I don't even think they sold gas at the locations I was aware of in Philadelphia, but they were known for their coffee, which my father always loved to take advantage of. And then the other thing is sandwiches. And if you're from Philly, you eat hoagies, and another name for a sub, I guess, that's not cooked. But so anyway, I wanted to mention that the Wawa is on US 1 is opening up, and one of the fun things they're doing is they're giving away free coffee, I think, until the 21st. So if you like their coffee, visit over there. And then the other thing that they're pitting the fire department in Stewart and the police department against each other.
They are.
And whoever can make the most subs in 3 minutes of those two departments gets $1,000. I think they both end up with $1,000 towards whatever charities they support.
That sounds like a fun contest.
So that sounds pretty cool. So it's a neat place, plus doing something good.
Tomatoes and lettuce will be flying.
Oh yeah, it sounds like it. I don't know who will win that one. So.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Firemen, I think they pride themselves in their cooking talents.
That's
and
true.
Expertise. So I think they take that cooking business very serious.
Yeah.
And of course, they share the same building with the Stewart Police Department. So I think there's some of those cross skills may cross over. So the Stewart PD may have some claim too.
It'll be interesting. We'll have to see.
Should be a very good contest.
What happens with that one.
Yeah, so, very cool. Yeah. So, so they sell gasoline too, and they've got quite a store on the inside. I've never been inside of one. So
no,
it's just like a 7-Eleven only on steroids, or
convenience store. The cool thing is, so here we go. So I liken it to Magic Bubbles, because if Magic Bubbles, if you don't know, you can go online with Magic Bubbles. You can fill out a form online about what you want. We'll email you a quote. You can email us back, and then we'll come take care of it. So you never even have to interface with us if you don't want to. So you walk into Wawa, one of the things they can do for you is you walk up to a little kiosk, you order your sub on that kiosk. Don't talk to anybody. You make your sandwich on the kiosk. They go ahead and make it. You take your little ticket, you go pay for the sub, whatever else you're buying. Then by the time you get back, they call your number and you're ready to go. So if you don't want to talk to anybody, you go in there, you can get a great sandwich, and it's all
automated,
new technology. So that's one of the things. So they do good sandwiches, and then it's a convenience store that sells gas.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The coffee is supposed to be very good. So
I'm not a coffee aficionado, so I don't know. The only time I actually drink coffee occasionally, but regularly, is at the Martin County Business Exchange meeting. It's first, I got to wake up.
Got it. Yeah. Oh, waking me up juice. Absolutely. Oh yeah.
So, but I hear it's good. My dad always liked the coffee over there. And
Mhm.
so he would walk from our house in Philly over to the local Wawa and grab his coffee. And I think that was his way of, I got to get up and get going and,
Yeah.
get out of the house, get a little exercise and get his coffee. So,
Good for him. Good
yeah,
for him.
absolutely. Yeah.
So Magic Bubbles has been active here in Stewart for how many years now?
Yeah, going on 3 years now.
3 years.
Yeah, about a year and a half ago or so,
Mhm.
I added St. Lucie County as part of my territory. So
Right.
I operate in northern Palm Beach County, Martin County, and St. Lucie County.
Nice.
Yeah, and then we do pressure cleaning for residential customers, commercial customers, homeowner associations, property owner associations. And we also, one of the big things I already talked about, I mentioned the technology that we use. So we make it extremely easy for our customers to get in touch with us and learn about the services that we have or order up the services that they want without much hassle.
Mhm.
If you need an on-site quote, be happy to come out there and talk to you about it. I love meeting my customers and learning about them and help them learn about me.
Right.
And, and then the other great thing that we offer is a membership program. So we have an option for customers that enjoy having their home or business or community cleaned regularly once every 6 months, or we can do it at whatever frequency you want. I have some restaurant customers that we do monthly, where we come out twice a year for the regular membership. We discount that cost by 40%. So it's a great savings and allows us to keep your place clean, do it quickly, and keep you happy.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's great. And your phone number once again
is 772-210-1173.
And if they want to reach you online,
it's www.magicbubbleswash.com.
magicbubbleswash.com. Very good. All right. Well, we'll connect with you then. That way, that's always the quickest and easiest way to get a quick quote.
Absolutely.
All right. Excellent. Thank you so much, Ron. We appreciate you coming in today.
Yep. Thank you, Frank.
And we'll see you at breakfast next week.
Absolutely.
All